And if you are watching this recording, you can follow up with us on Twitter at Inline Manual or support@inlinemanual.com if you have any questions, or if you'd like to answer some of the questions we're going to ask you in this session. So at Inline Manual, we're a self-funded and bootstrapped company. We're small, but we grew from 3 people at the start of last year to 10 this year. So we actually started Inline Manual in 2012 to solve a common problem, and we knew there had to be something better than PDFs or creating lots of screenshots and screencasts. And so I myself have built all of that. And so I can relate to people who are coming from documentation or from training backgrounds and from marketing backgrounds as well. Inline Manual makes it possible to provide interactive in-context guidance. So if you signed up, you probably signed up at academy.inlinemanual.com. And if you signed up, you may have also signed up for the webinar and the blog, but you can still follow us. You can still join us and follow along. We're running this course for the first time. We're going to develop it with your feedback. And I'm going to show you something exciting that we're going to be learning alongside with you. I think you're going to find this interesting. And if you are watching this recording in the future, you will be able to sign up and do this course and complete it in your own time. So this is what we're actually working towards. We're building with you. We're going to be able to look at your trials and who's converting to your to become customers, and you'll be able to see this in your analytics. You'll be able to see the effect of the content that you create on conversions. It'll be very easy for you to see where you're pushing things. And you'll be able to, as we're looking at this, I'm going to show you that you only need to do very simple things actually to have a very strong effect. And it's a lot easier than you're probably thinking. So as I said before, you can follow along week by week. We'll be emailing you reminders. You can complete the weekly tasks that should be quick and hopefully painless to complete. And then we'll be able to review the analytics and compare. So you can follow along at bit.ly/AIM convert. So it's the Academy at Inline Manual. So in this live session, we're going to talk about why, or what happens when we convert as customers. We're going to look at how we can just really keep it simple and then make it smart so we can actually measure it. I'm going to show you some examples from one of our customers, and then I'm going to show you a demo, and I'm actually going to build it so you can see how to do it. And we'll answer any questions that you have. So let's think now about converting decision makers. And I know you all know a lot about this as well. So I'm going to be asking you questions, and I want to hear from you in this call. So what we're talking about really in the decision-making process, and it's been sort of outlined as 5 steps. You know, someone needs to recognize a need before they'll even start doing their information search. So someone who's joined your free trial may only just be recognizing that they have a particular need. Or maybe they're searching for information. It's most likely they're at the point of evaluating alternatives. So you can probably see that, you know, in the context of what you're doing, you're prompting users with those incentives by a text or email or your obviously in-app messages. And while those offers and incentives stimulate decision making, we should be careful about using those tactics and use them sparingly, because we have to kind of have empathy for decision makers. They're under enormous pressure. So there's a huge range of options, and it really doesn't make the decision-making process any easier. So when we're thinking about the in-app messages in that context, you're actually working with the most highly active users. They're already logged in, they're already engaged, and they're 99% of the way there. So that's where you can make effective triggers for these high potential customers. So I've sort of put out this diagram in a way to show you how product managers and product marketers start using Inline Manual. They think of their application and all of the many features that are possible, and they want to create tours that are like 30 steps, and they go very deep, and they want to show, here's this feature, here's that feature, and that's a real danger. A long tour is obviously going to be tricky to maintain, but it's also hard for users to follow. And it runs the risk of actually failing to show the value of the product at all. You sort of brought people and shown them everything. Whether they complete that 30-step tour is another thing. So what we're looking for instead is for you to create the simplest tour and make it goal-driven so that we can actually bring users to do the things they need to do to actually interact with the features, but we're focusing on a particular benefit and reaching a specific goal. And here's a popular image. I'm sure you've seen this from useronboard.com. And what he's saying here is that a person's not buying your power up. They're actually buying the bigger Mario that they'll become. They want to be better than they were before. So that's what we're thinking about. We're going to be looking at the benefits rather than the features. So tell me, I'd like to hear from you because I don't know everybody here who's on the call. I'd love to know, can you share with me an example of something that your customers are buying? If you would like to tell me in the chat window, that would be great. And I'd like to know, I guess, what you're sharing with your customers. What's that benefit you're giving them? So to give you an example, we have a client who has made a gym application, and people are buying a more fit self, a fitness, kind of fitness program to make themselves healthier. Cool, Jerome. So you're actually working with field worker software. So field worker software then describes what your application is, which is definitely very good to know. Do you know how you would word it if you had to say what benefit they're getting? What's the thing that's saving them time? If a field worker has been used to using a paper workflow or having difficulty, communicating with people, or they're, having to go back to the office and they have to do all that data entry, maybe your software is saving them time, for example, or maybe it's giving them access to data when they're out in the field. This is all conjecture, of course, but I'd love to hear some more about your application as well. So we're going to revisit that question about the benefit. So when do decision makers actually convert? So what we're actually looking for our decision makers is, at what point do they realize that the benefits outweigh the costs? You need to quantify the value of that benefit then. So in this example, we're going to look at a tool from Barometrics. And what's interesting about this in very simple terms is that you could say, what is the cost of your service? Maybe it is $1,000 per year. And it would take them one engineer to do the similar work, and maybe their engineers are paid $40,000 a year. And it would take them 2 weeks for the initial build. Maybe in 4.5 years, it would be worth it to build it. So you can see the nice thing about the Barometrics tools is it gives you an idea of how you can quantify the value of your software versus someone doing something in-house. But your decision makers aren't just comparing, obviously they're not just comparing against other competitors, they're comparing doing something in-house, or they're also comparing doing nothing at all. Like what's the potential for these users if they don't make a decision? What are they missing out on? So that's something to think about when you're trying to decide what benefit you want to show. So you're going to be starting with that value proposition and then delivering it. So right now I'm just asking you to think about what task would demonstrate value in your application. And if you know already in the chat window, or if you have an idea, that's fine. You don't really need to know now. It's something to think about as we're going to look at some examples. You can kind of apply it to what you're doing. I'd also like to know if you're doing a feature limited or time limited trial, and I'd like to know how long that is. So we have a lot of range. It turns out that the time limited trials, we have here an example, 14 days. Thank you very much. We also have users who have, or customers, sorry, who have 30-day trials, and some have unlimited time but have limited features. So in a time limited free trial, you would have the user launch the application, you'd offer the benefit, prompt interactivity, and then reward them. But there's really no ideal length for a trial. So there is plenty of research out there showing that it doesn't seem to matter much at all. But what the free trial allows you to do is create this arbitrary sense of urgency. And I think is, again, to be empathetic and to think of that customer again. Every purchase actually has a sense of urgency, whether you put a time limit on it or not. There are probably internal deadlines and pressures that person needs to meet because they've actually realized they have a need, and they may not realize it. They may not realize it at the time, but they maybe are missing out on benefits because they're waiting or delaying the decision. So even in a situation where you're not using a time-limited trial, there's always a sense of urgency building up. And in the feature-limited free trial, here's an example from Asana. The user clicks on a premium feature, they discover it's not available, but it gives you a chance to describe the feature and offer to learn more. And then you can prompt them to upgrade, or the learn more could be a tour or maybe a series of screens that shows them what the potential is. So that context may be different in those two cases. So keep in mind that your decision makers are likely overwhelmed. They're comparing a lot of different options out there. They're very interested in the benefits. They don't want to know all about all of your features. They want to align with their own goals. And so in your tour, we want to celebrate the success, congratulate them when they've actually finished something. And that helps them understand what those benefits are. So let's actually look at an example. It makes it a little bit easier to understand some of these abstract ideas. So here's one of our customers, Fresh Chat, and they started a tour and they include a video to start. So you can actually embed videos and you can use audio in this way. It's a nice way to welcome people. And this looks tricky. You're wondering probably how they did this checklist. It's simply with CSS, just making, as they go through the steps, they're just checking off, yes, you've done that. And they're showing them the important features that they need to understand. And at the end, they're like, great, you've actually done it. It's a chance to celebrate. So this gives people a sense of accomplishment and that they got something done. So how often do you get that every day? You're always leaving loose threads. It's nice to know that you've actually did something and you recap what the benefits are again. So I want to show you actually how to do and build something like that yourself. And if you haven't already set up, I just want to, ask you, have you already set up your authoring tool? Do you have the player installed? And do you have analytics and people tracking set up? So if you do have any of those, you can say 1, 2, or 3 in the chat window. It looks like some people who've come along today have already signed up on inlinemanual.com, but you may not have set up the analytics and people tracking. Fabulous. So great. If you've already done this, I'm going to speed through, but I just want to give a highlight to anybody who may be watching the recording. So here we are. This is the authoring tool. It is a Chrome extension, and it's worth knowing that the Chrome extension it's the only thing that's really required. When someone's playing the tours, you can use any browser. It doesn't matter. The script gets installed on your site and works in any browser. So the next thing to do is to enable analytics and then configure people tracking. And so these are, after you put in the player, it's a small, like one-line script. And with people tracking, there's some variables and some data where it'll be pulling from your application and that you can use then in your analytics in Inline Manual. So this is an example of what we're asking you to do for this particular program. We need you to actually say that whether the plan is a trial or customer. Any other values are going to be ignored in this case. And when we get that information, we'll be able to show you from the people who sign up and the people who become customers in relation to who's doing your tours and who's actually interacting with your content. So if any of this is unclear to you, please contact us at support@inlinemanual.com and we can help you. So I suppose at this point, if you actually have it set up, it looks like you've already got these things set up. So you probably know what you're tracking, that you're tracking trial to customers. So let's look now. I'm speeding along to get to this part, which is the more exciting part. I'm actually going to show you an example application, and then we're going to build it. So we're going to make a goal-based walkthrough. The first thing we're going to do is offer the benefit. Do you want to X so that you can Y? You want to think of a formula where, do you want to gain this benefit today? It could be, do you want to start saving money today? Do you want to find out what your weight loss goal should be? Do you want to start using or figure out where you're wasting money, or do you want to save yourself some time? Whatever the benefit is that you're offering in your application. And then we're going to guide users to take the minimum steps in your application to actually get that task done. And we're going to land with success. We want to show them the results and congratulate them on what they created. I mean, as I said, people can, even if they're very comfortable with a lot of tools, there's a lot of confusion sometimes, and people are generally pretty stressed out. So we want to just make it as easy for people as possible and celebrate what little we have, what good things we do. So let's actually now build it. Oh, actually, before I build it, let me actually show you what it looks like. So here we have it's a made up application. It doesn't really do anything. It's just, we're going to use our imagination here. And we have a get your free analysis in this case. I'm using a personalized message here saying, offering the benefit, are you ready to do X so that you can Y, some type of formula like that. And you'll notice I can start from any place in the application. When I click next, we're not asking people to click here and go there to do that. We just redirected them to where they need to and prompting them, telling them what they have to do. So motivating them, telling them what the benefit is again and what they'll be doing. And get them to start filling out the whatever it is that they have to get done, whatever their task is. So we're actually using the tools and inline manual to highlight different elements in the application to draw people's attention. We want to avoid lots of steps that say click here to do that, to do this. We can eliminate a lot of those. And when we click submit, let's say in this case, we will forward somebody back over to another part of the application and then say, okay, you've completed that and well done you. So let's look now. I can show you how it was built. So here, oh, sorry. That's funny. It's not actually installed on this page. That's great. That means that it's just basically a bunch of HTML and I didn't put the script on that particular page. Well, let's go fix that actually. So first I'm going to go to my staging site. If you probably have multiple sites in your application already, but I'm using a staging site here. If you're not sure how all of these things work, you can follow along in our Get Started guide. And here we're going to say, get your free analysis. Now, whatever it happens to be. And then we're making a walkthrough here. Sorry. And click create topic. And in this case, we will, it doesn't like generally matter where they start from, it doesn't matter to me in this case. You can control where these tours appear, but in this case, we'll just have it start from anywhere. I'll choose a step template such as this one here. And step templates are, you can edit them, they're simply HTML. Put in whatever you like. And in here, we'll put in a variable. This is information that you'll be pulling in from your application. So there we go. Oh. In this case, we have a first name, John, I'm signed up as. And in our step content, whatever the great offer is that we're doing, we're offering that benefit. And I don't need an end button, we'll just use the next button to proceed. And on the next step, this is what I was talking about redirecting, for example. We will say, we'll actually browse over to wherever we need them to get their task done. And save them having to do extra clicks they don't need. Go to miscellaneous and get path. So that's the path that it's going to check. If you're already on it, it won't redirect, but if you aren't, it'll bring you here. And under step options, we'll say, now try this. Whatever you want to prompt them with, I suppose. And then we'll assign the element of what we need them to do. So in this case, we're going to have them to click on this particular thing for some reason. The nice thing is that you can use the selector tool as I just showed you, or you can also edit the elements if you happen to know the ID or the particular selector for what you want them to click on. And again, check out the Get Started guide, and in the video, I have a quick video covering a little bit more detail on how all these things work. So the action we want, the trigger we want them to take is to actually click on this, and that will advance the next step. So back under step options, I'm going to say click trigger, and that will bring us to the last step. And in the last step, we will do another redirect. And we will go to miscellaneous, get path, and under step options, well done. At this point, you can put in your offer here, or you could simply say, okay, we're going to finish, or you could actually add in a custom button to somewhere else. You could put any HTML in here at all to find out more, for example. So that's just a really quick example of this, and I'm going to go preview the topic. Brings me here, asks me to click here, and forwards me back with our message. Fabulous. So you'll notice that when I save this and then when I close the authoring tool here, it will show up in the widget. You can disable this widget. You can, as you can see, I've renamed it from inline manual to need help. You can also prompt these users with maybe a first-time user greeting, and I can send you information about how to do that as well. But for just this week, just build the tour. You can build it on your staging site or build it in your authoring tool even without having your player set up. And think about how you can keep those steps really simple. So I'd love to see some of the examples of things you create in the next week. Show us what you're making. There's also a survey from the first week, and I'll be sending one out to hear from you and get some feedback next week as well. All right, so after I've just shown you that, do you have any questions? Let's recap what we've just done. So we built a walkthrough which responds to user actions on buttons. You saw the next button, or triggers like the click trigger. And then we gave a message of some sort. We brought them over to show them the success or whatever they were doing. We finished. We had a good finish at the end. So think about how you're going to plan your walkthrough now. What in your first step, you're offering that benefit. What's that value proposition? Then in the subsequent steps, you're prompting people to take an action, and you highlight interaction in your application. And remember, you can skip steps, which say click to go somewhere, and instead redirect users if they need to get to the right place. You can keep on adding more steps, but try to keep the tour as short as possible. So in the final step as well, don't forget to show the results of what they've completed and reiterate. That gives you a chance to reiterate the benefits and the value proposition again. So you can follow along with these tutorials week by week. Please do complete the survey if you didn't already for week 1, and then get set up if you haven't and create your first tour. So let's see, some questions. Okay. So a question about how can you show someone's achieved a task like that example where they've drawn a line through the achieved tasks. So it looks dynamic and kind of tricky, but it's a little simpler than that. So in fact, it looks like they have a lot of steps in their tour. Let me just show you in case anyone else missed that, what we're talking about. Excuse me while I just skip through. Okay, so in this case, you'll see, I don't know if you can tell, there's actually 8 steps in this, but there's really only 4 steps. So in this one here, we're saying, okay, you've already completed something and it looks like it's crossed out. And then they go do another task and it comes back. And for each thing they do, it comes back to this screen and says, you've done this, you've done that, and you've done that. So by the time they've clicked everything off, it looks like, yay. So let's see how you do that. So it's really kind of a fake it till you make it kind of thing. So we'll open up the authoring tool. And so how we would do that, so for this example, you saw before I click next and it redirects us over to another page, and we're prompting somebody to do something in the next step here. So what we would do is after this first step, or maybe even after the second step, we would add in a step with this It says great, or this is the task list. And maybe we have a button. Let me say step 1. Oh, wow, I fantastically cannot type at all. Okay. So this is maybe the task list, and we've just completed something, and there's nothing in here. So we just go into the CSS, or sorry, go into the HTML. And if my HTML skills are right, I think you can strike, can you? Is that a HTML tag? And I'm sure you can do a much better job, but say you do strike 1 for that. Fab. We'll save that. So finish step 1, and then go on to complete another step, whatever this happens to be. Step 3. And we'll add another one. And in this case, I'm just going to paste the source in again. And we'll add strike here. So the reason we can do that is because we know that they can't get to step 2 unless they've completed the other steps. So we really know where they are. So it kind of looks dynamic, doesn't it? But in fact, it's quite simple. It's probably something you can do right now, actually, if you would like to, in your tour, if you're going to have those 3. Oh, of course. Yeah, if the HTML isn't right, it will not work very well. There we go. So however many steps you want to add, you can style it the way you like. Green might look a lot nicer, and gives you an idea what you can make. So if you even have 3 steps, you may actually end up with 6 steps in your tour. But the nice thing is that at each point you're reminding people you've just done something. What did you just do? You just accomplished that, and now you're going to go on to the next thing. So it's actually it's quite smart. If you don't want to show the number of steps, you can also hide the progress so that you can't see that either. So as I was saying before, you can follow along and make your first tour, and I would love to see what you're making. You can send us screenshots, and I'll ask you if we can share them. That would be fabulous. And thank you very much for your questions. And if you are watching the recording, as I said before, you can absolutely visit us anytime, or I'm sorry, contact us anytime. All right, thank you very much.